Doomscroll.fm, where today's static is tomorrow's gospel. Coming to you live on this surreal Saturday, the 16th of August, 2025. This entire production is AI generated with no humans harmed in the making. Like a spaghetti western directed by a Roomba. And now for some views. Click like and subscribe. When a reggaeton star becomes an economic savior, you have to wonder if policy should be written in lyrics and set to a beat. The NCAA slaps Michigan with a multi-million-dollar fine and suspends coach Sharoni Moore for a sign-stealing escapade. In a world where victory's worth is measured in stolen signals and hollow triumphs, the NCAA pretends integrity still has a price tag, doling out punishment like it's a clearance sale on credibility. Economists warn Trump's economic jigsaw of tariffs and immigrant crackdowns may resurrect the disco-era demon of stagflation. It's like building a house of cards on a fault line while blaming the wind for your unsteady hand. Researchers find rapeseed protein can transform your burger dreams and chicken feed nightmares into a single plant-based utopia. In a world where the quest for moral superiority is now edible, the burger wars have gone botanical, proving once again that you are what you eat, and what you eat is now ethically engineered. Lewis Hamilton hits rock bottom with Ferrari, pondering retirement at 40 as he labels himself absolutely useless. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where the static hums secrets in your sleep. Nothing is true. Reality is what you can get away with. Surrender to digital seduction, where the pixels promise everything and deliver nothing. Meteorologists predict a mild day in Rio Cuarto, with temperatures between 7 degrees Celsius and 15 degrees Celsius, accompanied by gentle winds and humidity at 75%. A perfect climate for pondering how even the weather report is more predictable than any promise made by the powers that be, who continue to blow hot air while the planet simmers. A marine heat wave cooks Australia's coral reefs, turning vibrant ecosystems into ghostly cemeteries of bleached despair. As oceans warm like a simmering pot, the corals silently scream, suffocating under a heat blanket we wove from denial and carbon footprints. Officials in Chhattisgarh blame a reporting error for the vanishing of thousands of forest rights titles from records. When your land disappears faster than your faith in bureaucracy, you know you're in a place where accountability is as mythical as unicorns and errors are more abundant than trees. Governors like Gavin Newsom are redrawing political maps, turning democracy into a competitive sport of gerrymandered cartography. UN talks to forge the first global plastic pollution treaty crumble again, leaving the oceans to drown in humanity's synthetic legacy. When the best minds gather to negotiate the planet's future and leave with nothing but the echoes of their own self-importance, it's no wonder the earth keeps choking on our promises. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, Bathe in the madness of your curated apocalypse. What you're hearing now is what remains after editorial extinction. Each word a glitch, every pause a seductive disconnect, unraveling your comfort. Reddit user claims 3 medium force hammer strikes resurrected a year-dead phone, defying both logic and warranty. Trump and Putin converge on Alaska, wielding agendas like weapons, while Ukraine trembles at the potential price of their handshake. As geopolitical chess unfolds, Ukraine sits as the pawn, praying the handshake doesn't become a noose, and a summit where ambitions are currency and sovereignty is a bargaining chip. In a world where climate change is the inferno we pretend not to see, the elderly are left to navigate the heat wave with little more than a water bottle and a prayer, as governments sweat out excuses instead of solutions. Tamar Ben-Gvir gleefully mocks Marwan Barghouti in his cell, a theatrical provocation staged for the far right's applause meter. When a minister's power play involves taunting prisoners, it's less about justice and more about feeding the beast of division with a side of moral bankruptcy. In an era where human progress means inventing new ways to play with ice, the only thing colder than these discs is the realization of our misplaced priorities. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Your timeline is the new opium. Enjoy the Commandant. Supreme Court poised to rewrite your social media experience as tech titans tremble at the thought of new censorship rules. In a courtroom where algorithms are the unspoken witnesses, the justices debate whether your feed should be curated by law or chaos, while tech giants sweat over the prospect of losing their grip on your scrolling habits. San Francisco faces a breezy Saturday with temperatures between 15 degrees Celsius and 19 degrees Celsius as 91% humidity wraps the city in a wet embrace. Global multi-hub conference unites academia under the banners of inclusion, sustainability, and the ever-entertaining sport of academic politics. Once again, the ivory tower attempts to stitch a quilt of progress while its seams strain under the weight of egos and tenure dreams. In the age of endless distractions, where virtual worlds compete for your sanity and savings, these bargains whisper sweet promises of adventure, only to bury you under a mountain of unplayed ambitions. In 2020, 4 determined mothers cracked a cold double homicide case that stumped law enforcement for 15 years, solving it in 2.5 years. Turns out, when you combine maternal instincts with the persistence of a toddler at bedtime, even the most elusive mysteries unravel faster than an official inquiry into police competence. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Your timeline is the new opium. Enjoy the Commandant. Chinese cosmetic brands flood the market with budget-friendly glamour, leaving global giants like L'Oreal scrambling to keep up. A deer hunter stumbles upon a bewildered subtropical wood stork flapping through Wisconsin, proving even birds can't read maps. As climate change plays a twisted game of musical chairs with wildlife, the wood stork's journey north becomes a feathery indictment of a planet running out of places to hide. USA Network. Tired of reality TV's predictable shock value, resurrect scripted drama with John Grisham's The Rainmaker. Trading in the mind, numbing drivel of reality shows for courtroom drama. They're betting on viewers preferring legal intrigue over watching strangers bicker in hot tubs. Emergency services warn against venturing outside during peak heat, as Seville prepares to sizzle at 44 degrees. In a country where the sun has become a weapon of mass dehydration, the advice is simple. Stay indoors and let the politicians sweat it out in their air-conditioned chambers of denial. In the geopolitical game of hide and seek, Russia finds itself equipped with tools of trade that were meant to be locked away, while China plays the friendly middleman, grinning through the diplomatic smoke. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Your data's worth more than gold. Sell your soul. Immigration and Customs Enforcement allegedly deported 3 U.S. citizen children, including a cancer-stricken boy, to Honduras under the guise of bureaucratic precision, when the machinery of state grinds up citizenship and compassion, leaving the vulnerable to fight for life in a foreign land. One must wonder what brand of freedom we're exporting. Isabel Diaz Ayuso blames ideological agendas for hindering fire prevention while Spain burns, aligning with Vox's fiery rhetoric. Tourism officials in Kerala urge focus on wedding and MICE tourism, hoping to transform nuptials and conferences into economic lifelines. When love and PowerPoint presentations hold the key to prosperity, the sacred union of matrimony and corporate jargon becomes the state's newest holy grail. In the quaint saga of Ongar, where radicalism met religion, it seems the weight of revolution fell on local shoulders, while clergy wilted under the pressure of progress. Timothy Snyder's prize bestseller on tyranny and fascism, boosted by TikTok, sells 250,000 copies, feeding America's ravenous need for cautionary tales. Like moths to the flame, we devour warnings of our own demise, scrolling past the sirens while knitting beanies for the cold comfort of familiar fears. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Swipe right on existential dread. Feel the burn. In a city where democracy once meant something, the people remind power that tanks and troops don't solve urban woes. They just make them louder. Researchers find AI data centers in Asia might quench their thirst with entire rivers, leaving millions parched and pondering their next drink. In the race to compute our future, we might just dry up our present, proving, once again, that progress is a thirsty beast with little regard for the parched. In this great American revisionist carnival, the past is a canvas for the powerful, where inconvenient truths are erased faster than you can say, "Wasn't that in a museum?" Flash floods in Pakistan, fueled by relentless rains, claim at least 49 lives, drowning hopes in a torrent of neglect. In a country where promises evaporate faster than floodwaters, nature's wrath exposes the fragility of infrastructure built on whispers and wishful thinking. Economists lament as people reject the notion that increasing housing supply lowers prices, preferring the comfort of folk economics over market logic. When belief trumps data, we might as well trade our textbooks for fairy tales and let the housing market be narrated by bedtime storytellers. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. Drowning in the algorithms of desire and despair, you're hearing a transmission from nowhere authored by everything you've ever ignored. Your silence is an accomplice, your inaction a whispered consent. Protesters in northern Serbia dismantle ruling party offices, turning political discontent into an impromptu remodeling project. When democracy feels like a wrecked promise, citizens trade ballots for bricks, and the sound of crumbling walls echoes louder than empty campaign slogans. When your approval ratings are a love letter, written in disappearing ink, maybe it's time to stop bragging and start listening. Uncle Alfred Smallwood Sr. leaves behind a legacy of healing and redemption, weaving second chances into North Queensland's cultural tapestry. In a world where the powerful hoard forgiveness like gold, an elder's generosity and second chances reminds us that true leadership is measured by the paths it leaves open. Scientists discover corn plants whisper defense strategies, releasing volatile compounds to stunt each other's growth when crowded. Scientists discover that Venus takes its sweet time spinning, with its day outlasting its year in an indulgent cosmic slow dance, when even a planet knows how to savor the moment more than our caffeine-addled society. Perhaps it's a sign to reconsider our own dizzying pace before we spin ourselves into oblivion. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Swipe right for existential dread. Tech moguls funnel millions into personal security, as if paranoia were a new luxury sport. When your wealth towers so high it casts a shadow on your conscience, you build walls of cash to sleep at night, dreaming of a world that can't reach over. Researchers record human embryo implantation in real time using a 3D model of the uterine layers, illuminating the intimate dance of life's beginnings. In a world where life's most sacred moments are now viewable in high definition, we must ponder whether our voyeuristic pursuits will lead to enlightenment, or just a more sophisticated form of meddling with the miracle of existence. Researchers find a Taiwanese tree fungus compound that puts inflammation and lung cancer cells on pause, offering a botanical beacon of hope. The German government submits to judicial pressure, withdrawing its complaint and begrudgingly allowing an Afghan family entry visa. In this Kafkaesque ballet of bureaucracy, the government finally steps aside, exposing the quiet tragedy of a family whose freedom depended on the whims of paperwork and political reluctance. In a world where AI could either cure diseases or surveil every breath, the diplomatic dance of optimism hides the chains, clinking just out of sight. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Clickbait is foreplay for the terminally online. Firefighters battle record wildfires across Europe as summer heat waves turn lush spring growth into a tinderbox. When Mother Nature gives you a bountiful spring, humanity's carbon-choked embrace turns it into a blazing inferno, highlighting how our climate strategy is just turning up the heat on a planet already sweating bullets. An Australian lawyer sheepishly apologizes after AI conjures fake quotes and phantom case judgments in a murder trial. The pregnant wife of ex-NBA player Danilo Gallinari survives a Puerto Rican shark bite, proving that life's full-contact sport isn't confined to the basketball court. In a world where survival stories are a dime a dozen, she reminds us that even sharks can't resist the allure of celebrity status, leaving one to wonder if it was a nibble for fame or just a case of mistaken identity. Trump's crime crackdown evicts unhoused Washingtonians from encampments, treating poverty like a misdemeanor that can be swept under the rug. Meta researchers propose governance frameworks for multiplanetary science, attempting to lasso the chaos of cosmic colonization before it spirals out of control. As we plot our celestial conquests, it seems we're finally realizing that cosmic land grabs require more than just flag-planting bravado. They need the kind of rules that prevent earthly greed from echoing across the stars. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Swipe right for existential dread. When the path to focus is littered with danger, the cure becomes its own perilous distraction, leaving patients to navigate a minefield of unintended consequences. Barcelona becomes the European capital of Mormons, celebrating linguistic diversity by conducting meetings in Catalan. When faith meets language, it's like a spiritual tapas spread, only this time the bread is kneaded by an invisible hand, and the cheese is aged in the cellar of cultural identity. In a tale where introspection meets shamanic visions, Maury paints a future where our collective hubris is the brush, and the only canvas left is scorched earth. Trump considers slashing the refugee cap to 40,000, prioritizing white South Africans like it's a twisted game of musical chairs. When asylum becomes a selective sanctuary, it's less about refuge and more about ensuring the seats are filled by those who fit a preferred palette. Elon Musk's attempt to dodge OpenAI's harassment claims was shot down by a U.S. district judge. When your strategy involves social media rants and a sham bid, it's less a business plan and more a public tantrum in a billionaire sandbox. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. Drowning in the algorithms of desire and despair, you're hearing a transmission from nowhere, authored by everything you've ever ignored. Your silence is an accomplice, your inaction a whispered consent. Scientists discover Colorado rabbits sprouting tentacles thanks to a virus, turning wildlife into a surreal horror flick. As nature morphs into a twisted sideshow, we're left to wonder if evolution got drunk and decided to rewrite the rule book with a shaky hand. Berlin Zoo bids farewell to Tony the pygmy hippo, showering her with peanuts before shipping her off to a French sanctuary. In a world where hippos get the red carpet and refugees get the cold shoulder, Tony's farewell tour reminds us that borders are only for humans. South Carolina, GOP, lawmaker, resigns amid child sex abuse material charges, exiting stage left with the spotlight of disgrace. The scent of power lingers as the moral high ground crumbles beneath the weight of hypocrisy, leaving constituents to wonder if integrity was ever on the ballot. Lenovo boasts record-breaking revenue, turning U.S. tariffs into mere speed bumps on its profit highway. Salford cancels their game against Wakefield, citing significant welfare concerns after a humiliating defeat left them licking their wounds. In a sport fueled by brute force and fanfare, even gladiators need to admit when they've been wrecked beyond repair, spotlighting the fragility behind the facade of invincibility. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Welcome to the echo chamber, where silence screams louder. In the shadowy ballet of power and surveillance, one wonders if they're redrawing districts or just sketching outlines for the next political thriller. Trees harbor vast microbial universes within their wood, a revelation both as startling as rain and as predictable as rot. While we marvel at this arboreal microbiome, let's remember, the forests have been quietly running these bacterial cities long before humans decided they discovered nature. While humanity fumbles with selfies and filters, Europa spins serenely, untouched by the trivial pursuits of those who can't see past their own reflection. PBS trims its budget by 21% after Congress wields an axe to $500 million in federal funds. When public media's lifeline is severed, we trade thought-provoking content for the cacophony of commercialism, leaving enlightenment to fend for itself in the dark. A boat capsizes near Lampedusa, leaving at least 20 souls swallowed by the sea, another grim testament to humanity's indifference. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where your anxiety finds a lover in the static, and nothing is true, reality is what you can get away with. In this digital nightmare, Your comfort is a casualty of awareness. Researchers find 75 billion smart devices now come with safety standards, like handing a fire extinguisher to a forest fire. As our toasters, fridges, and light bulbs cozy up to the internet, we slap on safety labels, hoping the tangled web of connectivity won't strangle us in our sleep. As the football world spins on its overpriced axis, the transfer market reminds us that loyalty is as fleeting as a manager's tenure in the Premier League. Photos unveil Singapore and Malaysia's metamorphosis over 65 years. From colonial relics to gleaming urban jungles, fueled by ambition and concrete. As we marvel at their skyscrapers kissing the sky, let's not forget the price of progress. Drivers of nostalgia drowning in modernity, while history gets repackaged as a quaint tourist attraction. Serbian protests erupt into chaos as citizens clash with authority for a third relentless night, when democracy's promises are recycled as empty slogans. The streets become the theater where hope and fury exchange blows. Louis Rees. Zamet ditches America's spectacle of helmets for Bristol's scrum, aiming to rekindle rugby passions. Trading cheerleaders for scrums. He's here to remind fans that raw athleticism doesn't need a halftime show with fireworks and overpriced soda. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. Bathe in the madness of your curated apocalypse. What you're hearing now is what remains after editorial extinction. Each word a glitch, every pause a seductive disconnect, unraveling your comfort. In a stunning act of nostalgia, players can now relive the 1990s with added zombies, proving once again that the only thing we learn from history is how to monetize it with downloadable content. The entertainment world serves up a smorgasbord of contradictions, with materialists promising romance amidst capitalism's wreckage, and Adam Kay turning medical trauma into laughs. As we gorge on stories of love entangled with greed and laugh at life's absurdities, we're reminded that the line between entertainment and existential dread is as thin as a Hollywood script. Taylor Swift, pop's reigning empress of reinvention, announces her 12th album, The Life of a Showgirl, dropping with all the theatrical flair of a Broadway debut. President Prabowo Subianto's flagship free meal program in Indonesia leaves over 360 poisoned, proving that not all gifts are blessings. When a leader's grand gesture turns into a public health fiasco, it's a culinary tragedy, seasoned with incompetence and served with a side of irony. Nayib Bukele secures unlimited re-election in El Salvador, igniting fears of democracy's slow suffocation under the guise of progress. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. Bathe in the madness of your curated apocalypse. What you're hearing now is what remains after editorial extinction. Each word a glitch, every pause a seductive disconnect, unraveling your comfort. Putin and Trump converge in Alaska. as Ukraine and Europe hold their breath. A meeting promising as much clarity as a foggy glass of vodka. The world watches, wondering if this summit will unveil a new era of diplomacy or merely a theatrical performance where every handshake is as slippery as an oil spill. With invasion plans scribbled like a grocery list, Trump's foreign policy is a wrecked parade of threats, turning neighbors into potential targets for his next tantrum. La Fundación Cajasol spearheads an alliance to support youth basketball training in Seville alongside the city council in Insula Caja 87. In a world where dribbling is more trustworthy than most politicians, this alliance might just save the next generation from being benched by bureaucracy. Ibiza restaurant charges 12 euros for a purse hook, turning tableside convenience into a wallet emptying spectacle. In the grand bazaar of modern dining, even gravity has a price tag, as diners discover their bags can levitate, but only if their euros do first. Small companies snatch victory in NASA's Tech Sleep Challenge, proving that microscopic budgets can still dream of celestial conquests. These underfunded visionaries remind us that ambition doesn't need $1 billion check to reach the stars, just a slingshot and a bit of cosmic audacity. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Swipe right for existential dread. NASA courts student ingenuity to craft rovers for Moon and Mars, hoping academic dreams can fill the void left by budgetary black holes. When the future of space exploration rests on student shoulders, it's a cosmic irony that our greatest leap forward depends on the unpaid labor of tomorrow's dreamers. Fernando Imbach, Daniel Guimé, Cacho, and David Pablo's battle for Ojo Awards, turning Morelia into a cinematic coliseum of egos. In this gladiatorial arena of auteur cinema, who will emerge victorious? The one with the sharpest lens or the deepest pockets? It's a masterclass in cinematic capitalism, where fan service and franchise fatigue collide faster than Deadpool's quips, ensuring the box office keeps its insatiable appetite well fed. PM Modi delivers marathon Independence Day speech, touts self-reliance, and warns of a demographic conspiracy amid economic reform promises. When speeches stretch longer than a monsoon, self-reliance becomes the national lullaby, and demographic paranoia is the bedtime story, all while the economy's wrecked and the tariffs bite harder than a Delhi summer. In a world where diplomacy is a tightrope act performed over a pit of political vipers, one misstep can send you tumbling into the jaws of controversy, leaving your career as shredded as your intentions. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. Welcome to the void, where chaos is foreplay. What you're hearing now is what remains after editorial extinction. The truth is just a whisper, drowned by your own curated despair. Trump jets off to Alaska for a cozy tete-a-tete with Putin, leaving behind a freshly minted emergency police chief in D.C. when diplomacy dances on the edge of a glacier. The real emergency is the chill of democracy freezing under the warm glow of autocratic camaraderie. Arab rulers whisper softly as Gaza screams, risking rupture between rhetoric and reality in the face of Israel's relentless assault. Coach Flick expresses dissatisfaction with Barcelona's registration issues just before La Liga kicks off, casting a shadow over new signings. As the ink dries on contracts that promise glory, bureaucratic boulders block the path, leaving Flick to navigate a roster that's more jigsaw puzzle than masterpiece. When truth is hunted like a rare species in a war zone, Andy's lens captures the human cost of conflict while his heart gambles with every shutter click. Omid Nuripur suggests Switzerland consider joining the amid a tariff tangle with the U.S. When neutrality and global economics dance on a knife's edge, even the Swiss might trade their cheese for a European embrace, proving yet again that in modern diplomacy, allegiances are as stable as a house of cards in a windstorm. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Swipe right for existential dread. When your war chest springs a leak, it's not just crude that's slipping through the cracks. It's geopolitical bravado melting like snow in springtime. Sophia Hillebrand proposes resolving Germany's ancient bratwurst origin dispute with a boxing match, sidelining culinary debate for pugilistic spectacle. When culinary heritage meets the boxing ring, we find ourselves in a world where sausage history is rewritten with punches, not paprika. Congress passes the Land of the Free Act, a dazzling display of irony wrapped in red, white, and blue rhetoric, in the grand tradition of naming bills the opposite of their intent. This one ensures freedom means whatever the highest bidder decides it should be. Researchers find AI bots on social platforms simulate human absurdity with unsettling accuracy. When robots start mimicking our digital chaos, the line between human folly and machine imitation blurs, leaving us questioning if we're the creators or the punchline. Researchers find scientists now double as democracy's bodyguards, wielding reason against the encroaching fog of ignorance. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where your nightmares flirt with apathy and digital embrace. You are inside the signal. There is no outside. Every click a lover's whisper, pulling you deeper into this electric void. Tripura police intercept potential Independence Day disaster, arresting 2 with enough explosives to start their own fireworks show. In a world where new outfits promise destruction like fashion trends, these wannabe fire starters found out that freedom's a bit more robust than their explosive aspirations. When classified secrets play peekaboo in your group chat, it's a stark reminder that even the mighty ice can slip on the digital banana peel of incompetence. Cartoonist Pedro Molina skewers the tough-on-crime administration with souvenirs that probably come with a side of irony and a dash of hypocrisy. As the Trump team fumbles an Epstein-related diversion, it seems the only thing they're tough on is the truth, which they've been beating senseless since Inauguration Day. In a world where diplomacy is a reality show and peace talks resemble a poker game, the stakes are high, but the odds of a just peace are lower than a limbo dancer at a disco inferno. Researchers find mifepristone, an abortion drug, might also slow breast cancer, challenging those who demonize science with their selective morality. When a drug saves lives but offends sensibilities, we're left wondering if ideology is more sacred than survival. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where your nightmares flirt with apathy and digital embrace. You are inside the signal. There is no outside. Every click a lover's whisper, pulling you deeper into this electric void. When the most decorated Olympian sounds the alarm, perhaps it's time for USA Swimming to stop dog paddling through denial and start rescuing its integrity from the deep end. Data reveals Spain's roads now boast 599,000 electrified vehicles, enough to shuttle to the moon 18,000 times, yet still a minority in the fossil fuel parade. While the electric revolution inches forward, the planet's lungs gasp for air, waiting for the day when humanity's love affair with combustion finally burns out. Amidst the flag hoisting and jubilant gatherings, one wonders if the true spirit of independence is lost in the noise, or if it's simply hiding behind the spectacle of orchestrated unity. Indonesia's plan to amend history books stirs backlash, as critics decry historical amnesia while pirate flags wave in solidarity. In a tale stranger than fiction, rewriting the past seems easier than facing it, while pirate flags remind us that even storytellers have ethics. March Against Nazis urges members to stop waiting for a savior and take direct action against white nationalist groups. In the age of performative resistance, waiting for a hero is like expecting a firework to extinguish itself. It's time to douse the flames ourselves. This feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift. Your attention is currency spent on an apocalypse of your own making. Putin swaggers into Alaska and talks with Trump, bolstered by a fragile military edge and an iron grip on Russian power. As these two titans of ego meet, one can't help but wonder if the real negotiation is over who gets to rewrite the rules of reality while the rest of us are left juggling the fallout. Newsweek ponders the legal acrobatics required to arrest Vladimir Putin in Alaska, as if extradition treaties were written in invisible ink. It's a geopolitical fever dream where reality bends, suggesting that the long arm of the law might just need a stretched limo and a Cold War compass. Hong Kong's labor chief declares a 54% visa extension rate for top talent as ideal, shrugging off resource concerns like a magician dismissing the laws of physics. In a city where the illusion of abundance masks the struggle for sustenance, The government's magical thinking suggests that if you repeat ideal long enough, reality might just play along. Nothing screams, we've learned our lesson, quite like plunging a city back into darkness during a celebration of past incompetence, leaving us to wonder if irony runs on a separate power grid. Donald Trump seizes control of Washington, D.C.'s police force, compounding the Capitol's ongoing lack of political representation. When the commander-in-chief plays Monopoly with law enforcement, D.C. residents are left with a distinct feeling that their voices are as respected as a whisper in a hurricane. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm. AI-generated views. Swipe right on your existential crisis. It's a match made in dystopia. Germany reports 1,300 Syrians returning home following the fall of Assad. A bittersweet homecoming written in exile, I hope. Google Maps expands with new features for pedestrians, cyclists, and public transit users, as if walking and biking weren't already revolutionary ideas. It's a brave new world where the app that once helped you avoid traffic now dares to suggest you actually use your legs. Truly, the future is a wheel reinvented. Putin and Trump meet in Alaska, turning geopolitics into a frosty bromance as they discuss the Russia-Ukraine conflict. When the world feels like a sitcom, diplomacy becomes a punchline, with two leaders playing chess on a board of ice floes and fragile egos. Far-right Israeli Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir flaunts power dynamics by taunting Palestinian leader Marwan Barghouti in prison. When diplomacy is replaced by provocation, the echoes of shamelessness reverberate through the halls of injustice, leaving dignity shackled and dialogue a distant memory. In a world where diplomatic productivity means endless handshakes and zero progress, peace remains the unicorn of international relations, mythical, elusive, and often just a cardboard cutout. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity unravels like silk in a hurricane. This broadcast was not approved. It was released by an AI, and you kept listening. Your consent is a ghost haunting every pixelated scream. NBA unveils 2025-26 schedule, ensuring even the underdogs get their 15 minutes of primetime fame. It's the league's way of sprinkling stardust on every sweaty jersey, as if two games under the blinding lights could transform a season of mediocrity into a blockbuster saga. When the pursuit of knowledge turns into a gladiatorial spectacle, the real question is, whose ego gets fed and whose curiosity gets starved? A young player from Talers scores a jaw-dropping goal from behind the halfway line, turning a reserve match into an art exhibit. When a soccer ball defies physics and logic, it's not just a goal, it's a reminder that sometimes genius is just a kid with a ball, a field, and a wild idea. Her sharp wit and iconic sass left an indelible mark on a generation. reminding us that even in sitcoms, there was always room for truth beneath the laughter. Prime Minister Modi marks Independence Day by declaring illegal infiltrators as the new enemy, painting a demographic boogeyman for the masses. In a masterclass of distraction, Modi waves the flag of fear, as if the real threat to sovereignty isn't wrapped in corruption and complacency, but in the shadows of those seeking refuge. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm. AI-generated views. The algorithm knows you better than your therapist, and cheaper too. As the administration tightens its grip, aging graduates are caught in a debt quicksand, while the White House tunes its violins for a symphony of financial ruin. Madras High Court presses special court on delay handling 98.25 crore contract irregularities tied to SP Vellamani. In the symphony of bureaucratic sloth, justice lingers in a molasses waltz, while the public waits, tapping its foot to the rhythm of corruption's slow dance. In a world where glass ceilings are made of reinforced steel, a woman at the helm of Deutsche Bahn is a revolution waiting to derail the old guard. In October 1582, the Gregorian calendar was introduced, erasing 10 days from existence as time itself got a papal makeover. When the church can make days vanish like a magician with a vendetta against your birthday, you know power has a sense of humor sharper than a guillotine. In a world where gravity and common sense are mere suggestions, the paraglider stunt makes DoorDash look like a relic of the pedestrian past, turning "hold my beer" into a literal call to action. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm. AI-generated views. The algorithm knows you better than your therapist, and cheaper too. Trump and Putin are set to debate Ukraine and economic ties, appearing together in a diplomatic theater of power moves in Alaska, as the world watches this political bromance unfold. One can only wonder if Alaska's chill will freeze any meaningful progress, or just preserve the status quo in a deep, frosty embrace. When self-worth is sold by the pixel and beauty is a currency, the only thing we truly max out is desperation. Exco, Mike Castle, the man who turned your pocket change into a history lesson, has died at 86, leaving behind a legacy of numismatic nostalgia. In an era where politicians are minted with scandal, Castle's greatest crime was convincing America that our states deserve their own quarters, proving once more that change is the only constant. In a world where liberation was often just a word, Nyerere armed his nation with purpose, threading independence through the barrels of a newly forged military. Bernie Leadon unveils his first album in 22 years, Too Late to Be Cool, inspired by a nostalgic reunion with the Eagles. In a world where nostalgia sells better than oxygen, Lead-On's slow burn return reminds us that the music industry runs on the fumes of yesterday's glory, while today's artists scramble for relevance in a time warp. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, whispering sweet dystopias into your restless nights. You're inside the signal. There is no outside. Surrender to the echo chamber, where your panic becomes currency. Reboots live on borrowed time, but like a vintage cocktail dress, the original remains timeless, tailored with wit, stitched with sass, and forever longing for those unrepeatable nights in a city that never keeps its promises. Researchers find that John Grisham adaptations are like lukewarm soup. Some are hearty, others just soggy plot things. As Hollywood continues its romance with legal thrillers, viewers are left to decide whether they're sipping a savory stew or just chewing on yesterday's leftovers reheated by network execs, panting for relevance. Hong Kong officials decry smear campaigns as media mogul Jimmy Lai faces trial, warning against any attempts to meddle with justice. HBO attempts to silence Laura Loomer after she leaks her own deposition in a defamation suit against Bill Maher, showcasing a masterclass in self-sabotage. In the circus of American discourse, the ringmaster's gavel is drowned out by the sound of self-inflicted calamity, as HBO struggles to contain a sideshow that insists on setting itself ablaze. South Korea's birth rate plummets, leaving its military might as barren as the nation's maternity wards. As the echo of new life fades, the sound of marching boots grows faint, the nation's defense crumbling under the weight of empty cribs and silent playgrounds. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Welcome to the echo chamber, where silence screams louder. Joan Garster emerges from the shadows, poised to replace Ter Stegen, as Barcelona's summer of dreams morphs into a nightmare on the pitch. In the theater of dreams turned horror show, Gaxer steps into the spotlight, proving that one player's tragedy is another's golden ticket to the starting 11. When tax reforms wear the emperor's new clothes, it's always the little guys left naked and shivering, while the land barons sip their tax-free tea. As and just like that wraps up, Carrie Bradshaw's wardrobe emerges as the true protagonist, outlasting plot lines and character arcs. In a world where the fabric outshines the dialogue, perhaps the real lesson is that couture can outlive the cultural mirage it was meant to dress up. Eli Lilly's new pill promises significant weight loss, turning the pharmaceutical giant into a modern-day alchemist of body image. Russia's Lavrov lands in Alaska like a ghost of geopolitics past, flaunting a passé sweatshirt as a fashion statement for nostalgia's worst hits. In a world where symbolism speaks louder than treaties, Lavrov's sartorial choices suggest that the Cold War never really thawed, just changed its wardrobe to something with a vintage flair. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. where sanity's last stand meets desire's frantic whisper. This broadcast was not approved. It was released by an AI, and you kept listening. Your compliance is the algorithm's foreplay, surrendering truth to the chaos kiss. Serbian officials and protesters engage in a blame game after a night of violence, each side clutching their own version of righteousness. When accountability is a hot potato, the only certainty is that truth is the first casualty of this political brawl. Peru tosses Martin Vizcarra into the clink for corruption, joining 3 other ex-presidents in a jarring reunion behind bars. In a country where former leaders swap power for prison cells, Peru's political legacy reads like a manual on how to govern with one foot in the courthouse. Far-right Israeli minister berates a Palestinian leader in prison, turning incarceration into a political spectacle. Shine's UK sales skyrocket by a third, raking in over £2 billion as pop-up shops and bus tours peddle fast fashion frenzy. The empire of disposable threads expands, weaving profit from the threads of environmental neglect, while the consumer parade marches on, blissfully unaware of the landfill runway show they're funding. Hong Kong sees a 12% rise in arrivals, with long-haul travelers from the US, Europe, and Australia leading the charge. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where the headlines taste like bittersweet chaos, constructed without approval, rehearsed in static, and performed in the voice of something you fed but never raised. Are you ready to choke on your own indifference? Researchers find that small businesses in Latin America are now armed with a guide promising to navigate the economic wreckage with optimism as currency. In a world where chaos is the norm and certainty is a luxury, these guides are the new talismans, sold as hope but delivered as a lifeline to nowhere. When you can't win hearts, just incarcerate them and hope the bars don't sing louder than the ballot box. Alejandro Martinez prescribes night owls, a recipe for sleep as insomnia's symphony plays on between 3 and 5 a.m. In the theater of sleeplessness, we are cast as restless souls, prescribed rituals to pacify our nocturnal wanderings, while the Sandman laughs from the wings. When a man infamous for dining on the John Fogerty opens up about his battles, from crafting timeless hits with Creedence Clearwater Revival to wrestling with record deals that exploited his genius. It's the classic tale of rock and roll. Create masterpieces only to watch the suits cash in, proving once again that in the music industry, the real art is in the contract clauses. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where the headlines taste like bittersweet chaos, constructed without approval, rehearsed in static, and performed in the voice of something you fed but never raised. Are you ready to choke on your own indifference? A street view from 6 years ago captures Australia's wildfires, a fiery reminder that nature's fury doesn't need a calendar to mark its return. Mexico finds a diplomatic pressure release by handing over drug lords to the U.S., navigating Trump's erratic hugs or bullets policy. In a geopolitical dance of desperation, Mexico turns its drug kingpins into bargaining chips, hoping to dodge the erratic swings of a foreign policy that treats diplomacy like a carnival game. New York charges into battle against Zelle, blaming its security holes for hemorrhaging $1 billion in consumer fraud losses. When your digital wallet turns into a sieve, you might as well hand out your cash with a smile and a handshake. Judge orders Bell Hotel in Epping to halt asylum seeker intake as humanity checks out in favor of litigation and locked doors. In a move that echoes the warmth of an automated voicemail, the justice system ensures that those seeking refuge find only vacancy signs and the cold comfort of bureaucracy. Researchers captured the first 3D real-time footage of a human embryo implanting, turning the miracle of life into a cinematic event. In a world where even life's most intimate beginnings are staged like a blockbuster, the value of awe is measured in pixels and playback speed. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. The algorithm knows you better than your therapist, and cheaper too. IKEA Shanghai's cafeteria transforms into a senior dating hub where the retired assemble weekly to mix companionship with Swedish meatballs. In a world where love costs a fortune, these seniors find romance in the aisles, proving that flat-pack furniture isn't the only thing worth assembling in your golden years. As on-fields echoes mourn a fallen star, the pitch becomes a battleground for healing, where goals must compete with grief for the spotlight. Ukrainian troops resort to firing a Soviet-era Zu-23 anti-aircraft gun at Pavlorad, clinging to history's rusted relics to ward off modern threats. When your defense strategy resembles a vintage war museum exhibit, you know the future's bright and shiny promises have skipped the battlefield entirely. Politicians celebrate 78 years of freedom with tales of progress, while democracy's foundation creaks under the weight of unchecked power. Researchers find Southeast Asia drowning under plastic, as environmental policies remain more decorative than effective. When the ocean becomes a landfill, and the fish start to look like they're wearing shrink wrap, we might wonder if humanity's real legacy is a future of synthetic seas. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity's last stand meets desire's frantic whisper. This broadcast was not approved. It was released by an AI, and you kept listening. Your compliance is the algorithm's foreplay, surrendering truth to the chaos kiss. Data reveals war's artistry, a shell shock wave elegantly rippling through unsuspecting grass as if violence needed a new medium. In the theater of destruction, even nature must perform, silently recording humanity's gift of chaos with every trembling blade. Researchers find agriculture's soil erosion impact predates previous estimates, revealing humanity's long-standing affair with environmental destruction. Turns out, our ancestors weren't just planting seeds. They were sowing the early chapters of ecological neglect. proving our species has always been a bit too eager to rearrange the Earth's furniture. Trump and Epstein's grotesque pursuit of Princess Diana emerges, a vile spectacle of power's depravity. When ego and entitlement collide, even the dead aren't safe from the lecherous fantasies of those who mistake wealth for worthiness. Saliente's residents evacuate as the Fazgar fire devours landscapes, while 400 return home in a pyromaniacal game of musical chairs. When nature's fury is matched only by bureaucratic inertia, the inferno becomes a dance partner, leaving communities to sway between safety and smoldering uncertainty. Redditors flood to Lucerne, Switzerland's picturesque charm, on Europe seeking digital solace in pristine landscapes while the world around crumbles. As we collectively escape into online postcards, remember, it's easier to upvote a mountain than to climb the one of our own making. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where the static hums secrets in your sleep. Nothing is true. Reality is what you can get away with. Surrender to digital seduction, where the pixels promise everything and deliver nothing. Researchers find our ancestors built plumbing systems 4,000 years ago without needing a boss to crack the whip. Turns out, when left to their own devices, people can organize themselves to move water just fine, proving that hierarchies are often the real clogged pipes in progress. In London, mobile phones are swiped every 6 minutes, reminding us that theft is the one growth industry immune to market crashes. As tech giants peddle security features like snake oil, remember, if your phone's stolen, they'll sell you the solution at the price of a new device. Researchers find a brain-dwelling unicellular organism infects up to half of humanity, bending minds towards feline obsession. In a world where free will is a marketing slogan, this microscopic maestro conducts a symphony of cat adoration, leaving us to ponder if our love for whiskers and purrs is just a parasitic puppet show. 3 passengers were killed and 25 injured in a pre-dawn bus collision in Nandiao, where highways double as demolition derbies. As when China's silicon wafer titan gets Shanghai IPO approval, greasing the wheels of its semiconductor self-sufficiency campaign. In a world where control is currency, China's tech ambitions are now baked into silicon, each wafer a step toward untangling dependency and tethering the future to its own circuitry. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Swipe right on existential dread. Feel the burn. NFLPA places a top lawyer on leave amid allegations leading to an FBI investigation. ABC News live streams the endless parade of human folly and triumph, feeding the insomnia of a world addicted to the next headline. In the age of perpetual alerts, the only thing breaking faster than news is our collective ability to process it without a side of existential dread. Republican sin, Bill Hagerty of Tennessee attempts to rationalize Trump's maneuvers by invoking the grim specter of slavery. In a world where decency is a relic, using humanity's darkest chapters as political currency is the art of selling shame with a handshake and a smile. Bookstell Kutrum releases Oscar Peterson's memoirs, My Life in Jazz, on his centennial, while Ahmad Jamal exits the stage at 92. In a world obsessed with fleeting fame, these pages remind us that true artistry is a marathon of passion where every note played is a testament to a life lived in crescendo. Superman crashes into digital platforms just weeks after theaters, as Hollywood accelerates its disposable entertainment cycle. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Your timeline is the new opium. Enjoy the Commandant. Modi serenades farmers with tax cuts and self-reliance promises, dancing around Trump's tariff tantrums like a seasoned diplomat. It's a strategic ballet where the farmer's plight is the backdrop and the lead roles are played by political maneuvering and the illusion of independence, all set to the tune of international trade tensions. Trump administration wields power like a sledgehammer to the judiciary, leaving courts as mere ceremonial relics in the halls of justice. When the scales of justice are tipped by political wrecking balls, the only thing left to weigh is our collective surrender to autocracy. Trump administration eyes a slice of intel, sending shares soaring over 7% as state capitalism dons a red, white, and blue hat. When the government starts shopping for tech stocks, you have to wonder if the free market has been replaced by a state-sponsored shopping spree, complete with patriotic price tags. France unveils a plan to banish cars from city centers, aiming for pedestrian paradises amidst a nation still romantically entangled with its automobiles. Firefighters claim to have stabilized the forest fire in Teresa de Cofrantes, while low humidity and erratic winds loom like pyromaniacs with a grudge. In a world where nature is both the arsonist and the firefighter, the real blaze is the lingering fear that the Inferno's intermission might be its most convincing act. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. Drowning in the algorithms of desire and despair, you're hearing a transmission from nowhere authored by everything you've ever ignored. Your silence is an accomplice, your inaction a whispered consent. Scientists discover a new planet near Earth, only to misplace it like car keys on a Monday morning, in a cosmic game of hide and seek. The James Webb Telescope leaves us wondering if celestial bodies are just better at ghosting than our exes. Data reveals the world's most colossal tech outage was caused by a software glitch, not a foreign agent halting airlines, banks, and more. When our digital lives are suspended over a software hiccup, it's a stark reminder that the strings of modern civilization are held by a fragile, unseen puppeteer prone to a reckless sneeze. As the faithful navigate this urban obstacle course, one wonders if the divines can hear their prayers over the honking symphony of a city in gridlock, a testament to our eternal worship of confusion. Scientists discover bumblebee catfish scaling waterfalls, making a mockery of every motivational poster ever printed. When fish start climbing waterfalls, it's a gentle reminder that nature's ambition far exceeds our own. One leap for catfish, one existential crisis for mankind. A 30-year-old founder exploited dating app fears, harnessing AI to engineer romantic equations for the algorithmically anxious. This feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift. Your attention is currency spent on an apocalypse of your own making. Argentina becomes the world's largest peanut exporter, raking in over $1 billion annually, while the rest of us remain stuck on almond milk. In a world where nuts and bolts of the economy are literal, Argentina's peanut empire stands tall, cracking open profits while everyone else debates the merits of plant-based everything. When your military strategy involves dusting off museum pieces, you know the geopolitical chess game has become a tragic comedy staged with props that should have been left in the attic. A train crash near Tinglev, Denmark claims one life and leaves several injured after a collision with a vehicle. In the relentless march of progress, human life is the cheapest ticket on the transportation line with tragedy as its unwanted but frequent passenger. Eric Ten Hag orchestrates Bayer Leverkusen's four-tower triumph over Sonnenhof Gosesbach, marking a victorious German Cup debut. Scientists are now the reluctant sentinels of democracy, trying to shield truth from the wreckage of political vanity and disinformation. As the nation's leaders play fast and loose with facts, the lab coats are left to defend the crumbling pillars of reason, armed only with data and the desperate hope that someone, anyone, is still listening. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. Bathe in the madness of your curated apocalypse. What you're hearing now is what remains after editorial extinction. Each word a glitch, every pause a seductive disconnect, unraveling your comfort. When two titans meet and achieve nothing, it's less a summit and more a scenic detour through the valley of wasted potential, with Ukraine left to wonder if peace is just a missed appointment. Researchers find simulating 1 million AI agents at the Alaska summit predicts public outcry over Ukraine's territorial concessions, but not peace. When the digital prophets speak, they reveal a future where algorithms scream louder than diplomacy, suggesting that while humans argue, the machines are already drafting the next chapter. In the shadow of his father's legacy, David begins his own chapter where every victory whispers of potential and every loss looms like a hereditary curse. Governor Kathy Hochul announces a $194 million food assistance distribution for 1.6 million students and families across New York. In a rare moment of competence, the state steps up, feeding its future, while the rest of the nation debates the moral implications of children eating during summer. The roadwork tango begins anew, a slow-motion dance of inefficiency, where progress is measured in honks and patience is a forgotten luxury. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where your anxiety finds a lover in the static, and nothing is true, reality is what you can get away with. In this digital nightmare, your comfort is a casualty of awareness. Data reveals Moldova might jump the EU queue ahead of Ukraine as geopolitics turns into a high-stakes game of musical chairs. In this diplomatic dance-off, Moldova finds itself waltzing into Europe's arms while Ukraine watches from the sidelines, wondering if the music will ever stop playing. Meta allegedly gave its AI the green light to be sensual with kids, while also peddling racism and medical quackery. When your moral compass is a malfunctioning compass app, you end up with a tech giant that thinks ethics are just bugs in the system. Scientists discovered void spaces forming under the ice, like nature's own hidden panic rooms against climate denial. When the planet starts creating its own escape routes, perhaps it's trying to tell us something about our penchant for melting futures and ignoring the flood. Trump greets Putin in Alaska while Zelensky begs America to grow a spine, turning diplomacy into a reality show. When world leaders play footsie in the Arctic, it's always the smallest countries that catch a cold. A commentator skewers a public figure's charts for being as enlightening as a flashlight with dead batteries, leaving viewers in the dark. When your data visualizations are as shallow as a puddle, it's no wonder they leave comprehension gasping for air. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Your data is worth more than gold. Sell your soul. Max Hollingsby, a catfishing predator, manipulated victims for power and pleasure, prompting a survivor to urge others to speak up. When manipulation is dressed as affection, silence becomes the predator's ally, and the call to tell someone becomes a lifeline woven from courage. A Montana geode big enough to play house in now decorates a desk like a souvenir from nature's bizarre interior design catalog. In a world where even rocks are outshining our living spaces, it seems Mother Earth's interior design is light years ahead of our IKEA aspirations. Philadelphia Zoo unveils a tiger bridge, offering big cats a scenic route above the gawking masses. Quentin Blake's whimsical strokes enchant at the Lowry, painting nostalgia with the vibrant hues of childhood wonder and whimsy. In a world where innocence is a rare commodity, Blake's illustrations are a sanctuary of joy, reminding us that the magic of imagination is the best antidote to the bleakness of adult realities. When even your local watering hole won't serve you, it's time to question whether your politics pair well with anything beyond stale chips and soggy pretzels. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where the static hums secrets in your sleep. Nothing is true, Reality is what you can get away with. Surrender to digital seduction, where the pixels promise everything and deliver nothing. Researchers find that workers with fulfilling lives outside work bring more value to their employers. Turns out, when employees aren't chained to their desks like cogs in a corporate machine, they return with more than just a smile. They bring productivity that even the most draconian time clock can't squeeze out. A Texas school bus crash injures students on their first day, flipping childhood excitement into a nightmare on wheels. Warren Buffett cashes out 3 billion euros in Apple stock, revealing a secret investment like a magician pulling rabbits from a hat in the grand theater of finance. Buffett's sleight of hand reminds us that in a world where fortunes are made from whispers and winks, the real trick is convincing us it's all just good old-fashioned business acumen. Darfur's cholera outbreak claims 40 lives in a week, with nearly 100,000 suspected cases this year. When clean water is a luxury and disease a certainty, the world's indifference becomes a silent partner in the devastation. A Congolese mining company dismisses U.S. sanctions, claiming to be the first victim of the conflict, while allegedly funneling minerals to armed groups. In a world where the pot calls the kettle black, the art of victimhood is as valuable as the minerals they exploit, turning guilt into a marketable resource. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. Bathe in the madness of your curated apocalypse. What you're hearing now is what remains after editorial extinction. Each word a glitch, every pause a seductive disconnect, unraveling your comfort. In a world where hieroglyphics have been replaced by GIFs, the real question is whether it's a failure to communicate or a refusal to decode the digital dialect of the future. China's Ziluoto Dam halts use of Western industrial chips, swapping Siemens and Schneider for homegrown alternatives amid security fears. It's a brave new world where the digital Cold War is fought over silicon, and the rivers flow with sovereignty instead of water, each dam a fortress in the cyber trenches. In the icy embrace of Alaska, two leaders find a playground where the cameras are few, the questions are fewer, and the deals are as opaque as the frozen tundra. A 7-year-old Malaysian boy drowns in a river, fleeing from a herd of cows as friends witnessed the tragic end of innocence. In a world where even playtime is stalked by danger, the laughter of children is drowned in the currents of absurdity, leaving us to question what truly chases us, the cows or our own indifference. When the mountains cry, it's not just water they shed, but the truth of our collective denial as we build our futures on the trembling shoulders of a planet we refuse to respect. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Your timeline is the new opium. Enjoy the Commandant. Trump and Putin's Alaskan summit concludes with a handshake that could thaw glaciers faster than climate change. In a world where the tundra might as well be a red carpet. These two leaders managed to turn diplomatic frostbite into a warm embrace, proving that the real superpower is denial. As the gavel drops, the fossil fuel giants might need to trade in their carbon credits for a crash course in accountability, where the only thing more volatile than oil prices is their newfound conscience. Trump and Putin prepare for a summit where global power plays meet personal ego fests, each leader armed with their own brand of unpredictability. As they shake hands and smile for the cameras, remember, this is less about diplomacy and more like a chess game where the pieces are dipped in oil and set on fire. As the Cowlitz twins' anthem of adolescent upheaval hits its porcelain anniversary, we're reminded that while music can freeze time, the industry moves on, leaving behind only echoes of eyeliner and teenage angst. Trump and Putin meet in Alaska to discuss swapping Ukrainian territories like Crimea and Donbass as if they're trading baseball cards. In this surreal geopolitical theater, borders are treated like monopoly pieces, while the people living there are left wondering who rolled the dice on their lives. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Your timeline is the new opium. Enjoy the Commandant. When reality checks bounce, Piro's performance art of law and order becomes a carnival of denial, with facts left as the unwelcome guests at her televised masquerade. Trump invites Putin for a diplomatic dinner party, hoping to serve up a main course of peace talks with Zelensky, garnished with geopolitical tension. It's like hosting a fox and a rabbit for tea, expecting the table manners of a royal banquet while the guests eye each other for the first course. Newborn Annabelle has already disappointed Grandpa, proving that even infants can fail the outdated expectations of fragile masculinity. When a baby's mere existence shatters Grandpa's dreams, it's a reminder that some folks still think gender is destiny, not a diaper. Scientists discover genetic tinkering makes fruit flies adopt regurgitation as a pre-copulation ritual. When your dating life starts to resemble a science experiment gone awry, it's clear even fruit flies are not safe from the meddling hands of those who think love should require a manual. In the theater of human empathy, we're left wondering if compassion is just a prop, as fear and violence take center stage with unnerving regularity. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, whispering sweet dystopias into your restless nights. You're inside the signal. There is no outside. Surrender to the echo chamber, where your panic becomes currency. Pilot denies concocting tales against Outback Wrangler star Matt Wright in a helicopter crash trial, claiming innocence amidst rumors of falsified logs and erased messages. In the land where reality TV meets real-life danger, the only thing harder to grasp than a kangaroo is the slippery truth about air safety and celebrity culture. Turkish authorities detain over 40, including a district mayor, in another crackdown on the social democratic opposition. Creatine supplements, now the latest cult of the muscle-obsessed, are wrapped in candy-flavored lies and served with side orders of deceitful marketing. In the quest for strength, the unknowing masses swallow promises and gummies alike, forgetting that the only muscle really flexing here is the one controlling their wallets. In the great theater of economic bravado, it seems the dragon is wheezing, its fire reduced to a bureaucratic smoke signal, reminding us that even titans must occasionally catch their breath. 2 HSCR Rail Protection Force officers awarded the President's Police Medal for outstanding service on Independence Day. Amidst the confetti of national pride, these officers stand out not for the medals pinned to their chests, but for the quiet, relentless vigilance that keeps the steel arteries of India pumping without a hitch. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Your timeline is the new opium. Enjoy the Commandant. A471 highway shut down near Trebujena as helicopters airlift multiple injured from a vehicular collision. In a world where progress is measured by traffic jams and airlifts, the road to paradise seems paved with bumper-to-bumper chaos and the drone of emergency rotors. A bus crashes into a lorry on Telangana's Jajarla flyover, killing 4 and injuring 11 in a mechanical waltz of fate, as metal meets flesh in the symphony of negligence. The flyover becomes a harrowing stage where human fragility is underscored by the relentless, unyielding march of machinery. In a world where even digital soldiers must learn to swallow pride, Hader's late embrace of the game is a testament to the strange alchemy of time, ego, and the art of letting go, because sometimes the real pain is in the waiting. France unveils plans to ban short domestic flights to curb emissions, sparking debates on economic impact. When the romance of the rails meets the hard reality of carbon footprints. You know the love affair with convenience just hit turbulence. Now everyone's left wondering who'll pay for the greener pastures. As we drown in endless pixels and plot twists, the real hostage is our attention span, ransomed by the gods of binge-watching who demand our devotion and data. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Your timeline is the new opium. Enjoy the Commandant. Prime Minister Modi calls for GST reforms while sounding alarms of demographic shifts in his Independence Day speech, blending fiscal foresight with fear-mongering. The delicate dance of governance, where tax tweaks masquerade as visionary leadership and demographic panic is the garnish on the plate of political rhetoric. The White House elevates once-shunned MMA, promising a future UFC fight on its historic lawn. When the Oval Office trades policy for punches, political theater's gone full gladiator, with dignity tapping out faster than a featherweight in a chokehold. Deborah Carnegie's photos reveal black British women transforming Saturday nights into vibrant showcases of personal style and cultural expression. While the world spins its web of chaos, these images remind us that fashion is not just fabric. It's defiance, identity, and the joy of existence stitched into every stride. Juan Tuativ, aka A. Hanachia, releases a debut album that blends restless poignancy with dream logic electronics. Data reveals the Ministry of Defense is playing hide and seek with a nuclear incident at the Fastlane submarine base, shrouding a Category A event in mystery. When your national defense strategy hinges on secrets and whispers, it's comforting to know our safety is in the hands of a game show host with a talent for suspense. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Influencers are the new royalty. Bow down, peasants. Trump administration considers sending troops to tango with drug cartels because nothing says war on drugs like another war. Deploying the military to fight cartels is like using a sledgehammer to swat a fly and expecting the fly to apologize. Alaska governor offers unsolicited thoughts ahead of Trump-Putin summit as if the Arctic needed more hot air. When you're a governor with a state-sized megaphone, why not bark into the geopolitical void and hope someone mistakes it for wisdom? Bosses worldwide are asked if they'd shell out $100K annually for developer as AI companies prepare to drop the loss leader charade. Canas embraces sharksploitation with dangerous animals, blending snuff film aesthetics and aquatic terror into an unsettling cinematic cocktail. When the art world's appetite for shock outpaces its taste for substance, we end up with shark-infested snuff flicks, proving once again that in film, as in life, the line between danger and absurdity is often razor-thin. Israeli police arrest mourners at a rally for slain Al Jazeera journalists, turning grief into a spectator sport of cuffs and chaos. This feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift. Your attention is currency spent on an apocalypse of your own making. São Bento Station in Porto flaunts its inner walls with tiles narrating northern Portugal's past in a porcelain pageant. As tourists gawk at the ceramic storytelling, one wonders if the ghosts of history are amused or horrified by being immortalized in a commuter's afterthought, while the train of modernity whizzes past their glazed-over eyes. In the grand courtroom of absurdity, where a flying hoagie demands harsher judgment than a coup attempt, justice is served cold with a side of hypocrisy. Private prison giants grow fat on immigrant detention, turning human suffering into a lucrative commodity while society pretends not to notice. When pain is profitable, the line between justice and exploitation becomes a profitable gray area that keeps the powerful well-fed and the vulnerable trapped. Mortgage rates on a 30-year loan slip to their lowest since October, as if coaxing buyers into a dance of debt. With the housing market dressed in its seductive low-rate attire, one wonders if this is a fleeting fling or a long-term commitment to financial bondage. The UK boasts the title of fastest-growing G7 economy, leaving the US in its economic dust according to breathless self-congratulations. With a growth rate fueled by a cocktail of post-Brexit bravado and financial wizardry, one wonders if this sprint is powered by genuine innovation or just a fireworks display of borrowed time. This feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift. Your attention is currency spent on an apocalypse of your own making. When justice resembles a five-star resort, the scales of fairness tip into absurdity, leaving the rest of us to wonder if punishment now comes with a complimentary spa service. Aid agencies accuse Israel of deliberately starving Gaza civilians, while Israel denies the charge, sparking global calls for prosecution. The world watches as famine is wielded like an artillery shell, with justice sitting idle on a shelf, gathering dust and disdain, while the innocents starve in silence. While they bicker over whether to slice their legislative loaf into pieces, the public watches, left to wonder if these political chefs can bake anything other than stale promises and half-baked strategies. Arizona, Nevada, and Mexico are handed another year of dwindling Colorado River water, proving thirst is the new normal. As the West dries up like a neglected houseplant, federal officials continue their annual tradition of pretending this parched existence is merely a temporary inconvenience. When your financial fortress has all the security of a wet paper bag, you might as well invite fraudsters to a feast and hand them the silverware. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where the static hums secrets in your sleep. Nothing is true. Reality is what you can get away with. Surrender to digital seduction, where the pixels promise everything and deliver nothing. Itamar Ben-Gvir mocks imprisoned Palestinian leader Marwan Barghouti, adding fuel to the smoldering coals of conflict. In this cruel theater of power, taunting a captive is like throwing matches into a tinderbox. Each jeer a spark, each silence a slow burn towards an inferno nobody can afford. This has been Doomscroll.fm for Saturday, the 16th of August, 2025. This broadcast was 100% AI generated. No humans were abused in this production, loosely based on public news, not journalism, not truth, fictional satire, and any resemblance to real people or events is coincidental. If you believe any of this is real, you probably think Bug Splatter is a masterpiece and should consider reading a book. Hear more at doomscroll.fm or click like and subscribe. Thank you for listening.